I'm meteorologist John Dawson. This is the Fox 26 YouTube tropical forecast. Wanted to bring you up to date on everything happening out in the tropics at the moment. And yeah, still quite a bit happening here as we are beginning to approach the end of August. And this is what we'd expect to have with multiple systems happening. And right now, it looks like Grace is a hurricane going to be making its second landfall into Mexico, and we're still keeping an eye on Henri, especially for the East Coast and those folks up in the New England area, even more specifically. So let's dive into things and talk a little bit more about what we're looking for. We'll start with Hurricane Grace, again, about to make a second landfall into Mexico. It has been gained strength again, now to a hurricane, maximum sustained winds at 90 miles an hour. Just a reminder that I'm using for our update here, the 4 p.m. Friday data, all of the information from the National Hurricane Center and then some. But that's what we're looking at in case you're checking this at a later time. We will expect to see potentially even with the Hurricane Center giving it the opportunity to become a Category 2 hurricane before it makes landfall on Friday night into early Saturday morning. And then, of course, once it gets out over land, Grace will fall apart quite quickly, but still expected to bring lots of rain with now the winds at Category 2 strength as it makes its landfall. And that, again, will be a lot of problems for those folks in that part of the country of Mexico. So that's going to take care of what we're expecting with Grace. Here in Texas, again, just a quick update, that high pressure ridge is going to be parked over the weekend. That's helping to push Grace away from us or keep it down in the southern portions of the Gulf. This is also going to be the reason why we're going to be very warm and just downright hot, dangerously hot as so, in the Houston area. Then in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we've got some other steering currents that are going to really have its direct impact on Henri. So we'll look at what is currently a tropical storm, but very close to being hurricane strength. So this will probably be Hurricane Henri before too much longer. Henri is expected again to strengthen and now begin to make more of a northerly track. Current winds 70 miles an hour, so very close to being a hurricane. And as it does so, making that northerly track, it looks like it's going to avoid most of the East Coast, or at least where we've seen tropical systems make landfall quite often, missing the Carolinas and then moving up into the New England area. And still a few questions as far as the track. You'll notice, again, we're not wanting to focus too much on the center of that track, but anywhere going to be looking on Sunday afternoon as potentially making a landfall. And then, of course, even more question marks once you get past there, could get pushed back out by a front. So that timing of the front will also sort of help determine exactly what's going to happen here as far as where it makes its landfall and how quickly it gets back out over the water, or how it kind of stalls and falls apart. So going to need a little bit more time to really pinpoint that down, but confidence is growing. If you remember, previously we had more of a bubble here at the end of that forecast cone to sort of kind of keep an eye on things. Want to just remind you on where we are right now as far as what we'd expect in a typical hurricane season. This is for the entire Atlantic basin. So we're not just talking about the Gulf of Mexico, where most of us are always concerned what's happening in Houston. This is for the entire Atlantic basin, where we're now to August the 20th. And an interesting fact that I saw on Twitter is that Dr. Gray, if you'll remember Dr. Gray from Colorado State University and forecast, it was very famous for. Dr. Klotzbach has taken up his work there, and he made the tweet today, but just a reminder that 70% of any major hurricanes have taken place historically between August the 20th and October the 10th. So this is kind of, again, not just the peak of when we see activity, but also that strongest activity that takes place. So this is kind of the beginning of that really surge, and when we'll see an increase in activity. And of course, you know it's happening already, that we've talked about these two systems, but the National Hurricane Center also keeping an eye on a new area that's out off the African coast. We've been talking about that, how these storms can roll off of the coast of Africa, and then they kind of linger around, and then some of them get a little bit more organized and typically becomes what would be called a tropical wave, and that's kind of what we're looking at a little bit out here with the National Hurricane Center. And this will expected to continue to move to the west, to the northwest, and that has a 20% chance of developing over the next 5 days. So I talked about that tweet. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. I'm at John Dawson Fox 26. I retweeted Dr. Klotzbach, so you can see that tweet that we talked about with Dr. Gray. It's sort of just, again, an interesting story there if you get a chance to check that out. I'm on other social medias as well. I'd love to connect. And don't forget the Fox 26 weather app. I really think that that's one of the best ways to stay prepared during the hurricane season, especially with the potential of losing power at any time with a system. You'll be able to have a lot of information there as long as you can keep that cell phone charged, which should be an important part of your hurricane plans. We'll keep you updated here on YouTube. Thanks for checking out this video.